We are constantly being torn apart and separated. Last night I had dinner with a bunch of people here in New York, and they are all conservatives and libertarians. And we were talking about, they were doom and gloom, and I was the most optimistic at the table, and they were really smart people. And I said, guys, we just need to boil down to a few things. We just have to look at common sense, things we can unite on, because there are things both the left and the right can unite on. Politicians say conservatives are anarchists. No, we're not. We don't want to shut the government down. We want the role of government to be reduced to a sane level, at least one we can afford. Government does have a role. But let's see if there are 5 common sense things that we can all agree on as people. These may not be the 5 things, but let's see if we can find 5 things we have in common. First, get spending under control. Is there anybody that thinks it's a bad idea to spend less than the government takes in via taxes? And not use spending based on projected savings, but things that you know in your own accounting. Life doesn't work this way. And we know that cuts are going to hurt. But all of us outside of the Beltway have already had to do this, either in our business or at home. And aren't we all in this together? Washington should live by the same financial rules that we have to. 2, leave small businesses alone. You give the small businessman as much room to operate as possible. It is the small businessman that America still trusts. It is the small businessman that creates 70% of all jobs higher in times of recession or depression. If the small businessman doesn't work, well, then none of us do. And if the small businessman doesn't get the perk, then neither should the big corporation. Same rules have to apply for everybody. 3, all federal employees, including Congress and the president, must abide by exactly the same laws that I have to abide by. Congress should also make exactly, and I think the president should too, exactly the salary of the average American. If the average American is making, what is it, Tiffany, is it like $49,000 or $53,000 a year?
Just about.
Okay, so it's about $50,000 a year. Congress makes $173,000 every single year. I'm sorry, but you know what will motivate these guys to actually get off their butt and free the system up and make sure everybody's salary rises? Is if they're making 50 grand just like you. Everybody plays by the same rules. It's an elite that we have ruling us now in Washington. Number 4, shut down all the non-constitutional agencies. If it's not in the Constitution, it goes. You can argue about the DOE, you can argue about the EPA, but some of them are very easy. The Consumer Protection Bureau isn't even a federal office. It is outside of the government and inside the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not a government, it's a corporation. And what they're doing is they're taking your hard-earned tax dollars, and through the Fed and the government, they have hired 1,200 employees, and they have just started to build a new community organizing sector inside. The Fed is powerful enough. Stop it. And while we're at stop, number 5, all foreign wars that are not a threat to us. Let me change that. Stay out of everybody else's business. If somebody attacks us, or if there is an obvious imminent threat, we should respond. But we respond with the full force and might of the American military. We win the war quickly and we go home. No nation building, no rebuilding, nothing. Don't screw with us. We're the United States of America. And we'll leave you alone. You want to do what you want to do, you do it. Don't screw with us. That's it. How hard is that? Believe it or not, I think there are things that we can unite on. They may not be these 5 things. I don't know. I'll bet you there's 3 out of the 5 that we can get the majority of people. We just have to stop allowing ourselves to be the pawns in politicians' silly little games, because that's what they're doing. They're playing games, and we are pawns. we're sheep.